Shotgun to shotgun.
Husband, a father, and we have two wives, two children, and I'm a community worker and a community educator. Now I'm a professor in the a major university here in Salvador, um, teaching the educational field and educational politics. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of the African struggle here in Brazil. My presentation is called The Unbroken Cycle of Resistance in the South America. And I will try to, I'm a Chenuti of the Afrocentrist International Brazil Division. Chenuti means um, president of Brazil Division of the Afrocentrist International. And we are a GAVE organization. I'm a GAVE too, and I'm praise our ancestors today. I'm praise the spirit of the Honorable Marcos Mosiah Garvey. May he has in power and inspire us to liberate our people. And I will try to present to you a little bit of the situation of our people here in Brazil. Brazil is a very unbalanced country. We have a lot of inequality here. That's a picture of our major city. It's called São Paulo, and you can see in the picture the real apartheid system, segregation system that Brazil lives. In the right, you have major condom that white people can live with pools for every apartment. And the left, you see the slums that absolute majority of the black people is living. And we don't have laws blocking people to live in the white neighborhoods here in Brazil. The Brazilian system, it is a little more complex. We haven't allowed forbidden black people to vote, for example, here in Brazil, like in US or in the South Africa. Here, they create some rules that African people can African people here in Brazil can be able to surpass, be able to comply. So here in Brazil, the literate people that can't hear or write, wasn't able to vote until 1988. So the majority of people here was unable to write and read is African people, are African people. So we haven't right of to vote here in Brazil until almost 30 years ago. Of course, we are gathered. We understand to vote is not the way to free ourselves, but it's just some just tiny tiny example of how things are going on here in Brazil. Brazil is we have now 209 million of people here in Brazil. From this population, 47.73% are white. We have 43.15 brown, so-called mixed, that it's men, black people, and Indian people, and we have 7.61 of blacks, but in fact, to Brazilian black movement, the Africans here are the um, blacks and brown put together. Uh, so we are the majority of the country here. We have a small percentage of yellow people and Indian people. Indian means Native Americans people here in Brazil. And we was the um, great world economy in 2017, but we hold the 79th place among the 188 nations in human development here. So Brazil is the 10th most unequal country in the world. We have a lot of money. Brazil is a very rich country, but the majority of the population here that is black and Native American have no rights to use to access those riches. We record that here in Brazil almost 60,000 of homicides in 2015. 71% of those killings was young black men, and in comparison, in the Syria war, in 4 years, they have estimated 2,000 and 256,000 of people killed. In the same period here in Brazil, we have almost 2,079 sorry, 279 thousands of people killed. And in fact, we here in Brazil are facing a Cold War. That's a racial war. So white people are killing our people here and using black people to kill themselves. And now that are obsolete data, because with Bolsonaro, it's openly white supremacists in the power. He and his government is hiding the numbers, and probably they increase these numbers because they support the police killings and the so-called gangsters, or we call it in Portuguese, milícias. So paramilitary groups that terrorize our communities here in Brazil, the black communities in favelas or slums. That's a picture of the caveirão. Caveirão in Portuguese means big school. It's armored police vehicles that was designed by the South African police to kill and persecute black people in the townships, apartheid townships in South Africa, and in the late 90s. the last decade of the last century, when the South Africa was selling those vehicles, the Brazilian government buy it and use it in the black communities. So with armored and the police force go in the favelas and shoot people and kill people right in the site. So it's a very, very complicated situation here in Brazil. And the most famous um, uh, special corps here in Brazil, it's called BOP, so Special Police Operations Battalion. Uh, they are from Rio de Janeiro state, but we have a lot of similar groups in the policy here in Brazil, and they have a motto called Faca na Caveira, that means knife in the school, and they have a lot of uh, training to kill black people, uh, black young men in your communities, and they are very proud of it. We are a country with half of the population are African descendants, so unfortunately we have a lot of black people in the policy here working for enemy in the police force that in fact are an arm of occupation in your community, in the black community here in Brazil. That just one example. We have these 5 young men killed murdered by the police in 28 November in 2015 in the slaughter of Costa Barro. Costa Barro is a neighborhood, a black neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro. They was celebrating the first job of one of them. Then they have 16 to uh, 25 years old, and one of them got his first job, and they took his father's car and go out to celebrate. And the army was in the streets in the time, police in the streets. It was not the policy, it was the army, the Brazilian army, and they shoot 111 times in the vehicle with machine guns and rifles, and killed the 5 young brothers. It's just one example of the stuff that we are going on here in Brazil. It's not different from US or another countries where our people is exposed to white supremacist groups and the white people government. And the Brazil was the uh, territory here in Americas, in so-called Americas, where racial enslavement was longer. We have here in Brazil the second largest slave-owning nation of the modern era territorially, and Brazil was the largest receptor of the European human traffic across Atlantic. So Brazil has today 100 million people of African origin here in Brazil. We are also surpassed by Nigeria demographically of the presence of African people, African descendant people here. And that's the percentage of distribution of the European human traffic across Atlantic, the MAFA. by destination, almost 40%, 4 in 10 of the African people kidnapped in Africa was brought to Brazil, and it was uh, a factor that make the enslavement in Brazil be very cruel, very violent, because it was uh, easy for the Portuguese replace our ancestors and put them to work until death in a massive scale, because the geographical proximity between Brazil and the African coast keep the the flow of slave trade, the European human traffic, very fast, very easy to them. So Brazil have a large amount of people living here, all time uh, taken from Africa for here. And paradoxically, Brazil was the last major country in the American continent formally abolished the enslavement in 1888, but was the first in the world to declare, to say, declare itself a racial paradise. And they say you have carnival here, you have uh, uh, people living harmonically. As they say, we don't have racism here in Brazil. Of course, it's 100% lies, because Brazil is a hell for the black man, black woman, black children, uh, as the U.S. Or other place in the globe, in the old world. And Brazil is facing um, effort to whitewashing the population from the very beginning. The Portuguese, the Iberian way of colonization is not centered in segregation. They was centered in assimilation, because Portugal is a very tiny country, so they made a strong effort to use hate and use uh, miscigenação, that mix the Portuguese man with native woman and African woman to have a major population of mixed people, so-called mulattoes, to serve them. So that's a picture, that's a painting of Italian immigrant in Brazil in 1895. It's available in the Museum of Fine Arts in the Rio de Janeiro, and it's called the Hans Redemption. It's in Portuguese, Redenção de Can. It's a reversal of the Can, the Hans curse, that say in the Bible that Can, Han, or Can, the son, the Han, the son of Can, was cursed with a black skin, because his father was disrespectful with Noah, and despite displays a black woman uh, thinking to God, because her daughter have a child with a white man, and the head daughter is so-called pardo here in Brazil, which means like brown or mixed, and her grandson or granddaughter was born with a light skin. That here in Brazil, sometimes people with African ancestry, but light skin is read by the racial rulers here in Brazil as a white. So this pint was winning in a prize of the time to represent the Brazilian culture, and you can see that the black woman is on the dirt, and the white man is on the stones. In, it's representing, showing the evolution of the black people, a so-called evolution of the black people through miscegenation from the so-called barbarian stage to upper civilization stage by whitening or skin. So that's the major ideology, the major vision of the Brazilian elites, Brazilian government, and they work to force to put this vision in the reality here in Brazil. In Brazil, this compulsory whitening was elevated to state policy. We are cutting here in this slide João Batista de Lacerda. He was a Brazilian official representative in the Universal Congress of the Races in London, 1911, and he was saying that the mixed population of Brazil is expected to have a very different aspect to the current on. For the moment, the current of European immigration increasing the white element of this population will, after a certain time, suffocate the elements which some trace of the Negro could still persist. And the Brazilian government pay for the white people, especially in Italians and Spanish and in Germans, to come to Brazil, and they give them land and seeds and everything they took, and forbidding the black people to have access here to in order to whiten the population. So it was a major process here when the Honorable Martin Delany was looking for buy land to build a community for the Africans in the United States to repatriate. He was looking here in Brazil in a state called Mato Grosso, and the politicians here in Brazil passed a law, approved the law forbidding black people to immigrate to Brazil because they don't want more black people here. They want white people, and they're trying to block more black people to come to here, and it was a state policy here. But of course, where is violence, where is oppression, there is resistance. And we have a lot of resistance here in Brazil. You had that all the way in the colonial time. We have a lot of rebellions, a lot of quilombos, And João Rufino dos Santos, in an article called The Insertion of the Brazilian Negro. He's a black historian here in Brazil. He said that the Negro rebellion during the colony times here in Brazil have uh, two different kinds of organization by strategy and by tactics. So strategically, uh, we have individual or collective confrontation with the white power here without formation of alternative community. We have collective flight with the formation of an alternative community. It's called here in Brazil Quilombo. Quilombo is a Kikongo word. It's a Bantu word that means warrior camp, warrior camp in the woods. He said that we have participation in rebellion of another in here Brazil in 1804. We have a lot of rebellions here uh, uh, that, that there are records of the Africans in those rebellions make make reference to Haitian revolution and calling Dessalines, calling Toussaint Louverture, the leaders, because people here in Brazil, the African people here in Brazil, saw the power of the Haiti revolution. Uh, we have so a lot of rebellions to take of powers in my city. It's called Salvador. We have the Malays, was Africans from Yoruba uh, origin that tried to start government here, and they took control of a lot of fortress of the Portuguese and almost take the power in the city in 1835. And for tactics, he was saying that we have sabotage, so-called criminal actions, war movement, guerrilla, conjurations, and insurrection. So the Quilombos were self-determined territories. Sorry, self-sufficient and capable of self-defense. Thus, they were a permanent threat to the slave order for being constituted for being constituted as a viable alternative to the colonial way and society. The Quilombo symbolically spread and objectively stimulated those who act in direct confrontation and break with the European order here in Brazil. We have the most famous quilombos here. It's called Ingola Janga. It's the African name of the quilombo. That's the most known as Quilombo de Palmares, where Zumbi was one of the kings, the rulers, the Ahel rulers for Ingola Janga. And Ingola Janga means um, something like little Angola or new Angola, that was a reestablished African state here in Brazil. And this Quilombo have lasted for 120 years here in Brazil. So it was a hill state here from 15 and 50 late 15th century to the uh, the initial of the 17th century. And the Quilombo of Palmares inspired the Abdias do Nascimento, that was a major reference and leadership in the Brazilian Black Liberation Movement, to write the Quilombismo that in the 80s, that has total affinity with the Afrocentricity, the African-centered perspective and the way, and invite us to her group of families into a space of sociability, conceived, controlled, and processed by ourselves to praise cooperative economics, producing and consuming and distributing collectively as a group, to reestablish Africa as the center and the base of our world presence, of our world uh, perspective, take it as a reference for the relation with everything else, to promote the African Renaissance, the African revival, by restoring our scientific spiritual values, and to build our own institutions, territorial control, and self-defense by any means necessary. So we have a lot of quilombos here in Brazil. They, they was not on something historical. We have a lot of communities uh, in the countryside that are Black communities. You are facing a lot of military actions by the government, the white government here, from the left or the right, or wherever. And I myself are working to build with our sisters and brothers. Uh, we have the AI Brazil, the Afrocentric International, that was that is working to build schools and build institutions for us. And now we have a program that are forming Black teachers in the schools. And this year we have we are in our third year with this program. I'm have 2 decades working for our community, and this program is our last project. It's totally self-sustaining. It's totally keep by ourselves. We don't take money for the white people, for the government agencies, or whatever. And we have now 200 Black teachers working with us to teach our children. And we are working to build our schools here, because in Brazil we don't have 5 African-centered or Afrocentric schools here. We have a few schools, and those schools sometimes talk about ancestry, Afrocentricity, but they have white people in those schools. So we are working to build government schools, self-owned by Black people. And so we usually go in the Quilombos communities to have moments with our people, and learn with the elders, and try to uh, take our children outside of the urban space, to learn how to grow food, and to deal with animals sometimes, and the professors, the teachers too. Uh, that's another picture. We are working with the children in honor of the Quilombos. It's called Quilombo Kingoma here in Bahia. and we have a good interaction with other Black institutions like the Ileaê. It's a carnival group for Black people here in Brazil that have almost half century struggling to promote black built and black proud here in Salvador. And that's it. I'm open to exchange with you. I know my English is not very accurate, but I believe you can grasp the spirit of what I'm saying. That's exactly what Gabriel was teaching us 100 years ago to uh, build our own institutions, to take control of our own land, be able to defend ourselves. And that is a statue of Zumbi dos Palmares was the major leader, the Golajanga, the Quilombo dos Palmares, and that's a verse of a poetry called Padê de Exu Libertador. This means in English something like salute to the Exu, the Orisha, Exu, the Liberator. It was wrote by Abdias do Nascimento, and it says, em cada coração de negro, quilombo pulsa, e em cada barraco, outro Palmares crepita. That in English means in very Negro heart, there is a quilombo beating. In every slum, there is another Palmares crepitating. So, Santa Sana, obrigado, thank you. On I'm, on God, on destiny. That's my email, swahili@ufba.br. I want to be in touch with you, of course. And now I'm open to Q&A. Q&A. You can ask questions and try to answer to you. Okay, what are programs? You can find us in the Instagram. Ubuntu.eba. It's the program for teachers, and we are in the Instagram with the AI Brazil too. That's a organization that run the Ubuntu program. It's a Afrocentric organization that try to keep in touch with divisions around the world, promoting the Hemezut, the African Renaissance.
That second link, that AI.Brazil, is that also on Instagram?
Instagram, both of them. There in the Instagram, you'll find our links for our webpage. I will type here.
All right, if anyone has any questions, unmute yourself and let's fire away.
Hi, Baba. This is Afia. I don't have any questions, but I want to say excellent presentation. I learned so much about Brazil. It's a shame that we don't get enough information in the U.S. about Brazil, especially if you attend a public school institution like I did. But it was excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sister. Most welcome. Of course, the white supremacy don't want that we be touched. That's why Marcus Garvey teachings is very important for us, because he was able to see that we need universal approach. People around the world, black people around the world, need being told to be need be being business, building institution together, uh, because the white people are doing that and using it against us, using black people from a place against black people in another. And we are trying to achieve through the Afrocentric International this kind of uh, um, network with African people around the world. And here in Brazil, we have a huge country, just like the US. We are now six, 60, about 60 people from different cities working together to build schools. And we are uh, trying to put our fifth school running the next year in Brazil. We have a lot of programs with the children, but the Brazilian law forbidding people to have the so-called charter schools that you have in US, and forbid us to have homeschool of children. So it's very difficult was here to navigate the legal system to have room to teach our children by our own means and our own culture. Of course, I have three children. We teach them um, the African ways, but we need to build institutions to bring the other African children that live here in Brazil outside the public school system that was designed here, like in the US, to keep us slaves. I'm seeing my brother Mário Johnson. Salve, meu irmão.
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good to see you, man.
Much.
Thank
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, always. Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask you, we haven't talked about this, man, but you know, I know there was a lot of concern with the recent, I guess it's not so recent, but the election of your current president. You know, how he's like really conservative, you know, and all of that. Has there been a tangible impact on the lives of Africans in Brazil?
The Bolsonaro family is one of those families that come to Brazil receiving money from the government to settle here and whiten the country. And the major situation with Bolsonaro that is he's using the church to build his power. And here I'm hear a lot of my brothers and sisters in the US about the black church in the US being a problem to our community. And unfortunately, here in Brazil, we don't have black churches. We have a majority of the black people in the Christian church, but those churches are controlled by the white Christians. So it's a very crazy situation because we go in a church and see hundreds of black people praising a white Jesus and hear a white priest giving a sermon, and that's the base of the Bolsonaro power. He have the power of this church that have a black membership but a white leadership, and in another hand, he has the power of the paramilitary, the militias groups that control the drug dealing here in Brazil. And it's becoming more complicated us because he's deploying the economy and people is suffering. He was pushing he agenda here against the people, to block our rights. Uh, he is persecuting the Quilombos. Uh, we have few advances in the last government. Of course, we need self-determination. None of the white people government can liberate ourselves, but the Quilombos community was uh, get, having access to water, to electricity, and to the land being protected by the law from the big farmers. And now Bolsonaro is throwing everything away and trying to move out the African communities, the Quilombos, and the Native American communities from the ancestral land here. So the war is intensifying. The situation of genocide here is intensifying.
Thank you.
You're much welcome, my brother. And of course, we have a lot of black people that, like in US, see Trump as a bold man. So they believe Bolsonaro is a brave man here in Brazil, because we are facing now a process that I believe was um, happening in the US 20 years ago, that is this so-called progressive agenda being forced to the all people here. And there's a lot of confusion. There is a lot of sexual liberation talk, and the African people are towarding um, and turning to church and turning to right wings politicians, expecting they stop this kind of agenda here that wanted to promote um, pedophilia, um, sexual exposition for children. So of course, these white right-wing people are not really concerned with preserve of people, but they can navigate with this fear of our people here and sell the project to the majority of the country.
Anyone else?
Okay, I was a little short in my presentation because I wanted to uh, give you room to question and answer, but I have some few things to share with you. If you wanna to if you don't have more questions, I can come back for the presentation. Brother Hassan, do you want to ask anything?
No, I don't.
How many minutes I have?
How many minutes you have left? You have until, so you have about another 40 minutes.
Okay, so I wanted to share something else. If I wanted to keep it flowing, so you have more questions about Brazil, the African struggle here. I would like to exchange with you and to have this conversation. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But
Yeah, if you got more, by all means.
let me put my presentation again. Give me a few minutes, please.
is your is your is your um is your program what's like your most needed resource that you need in order to run your
Now,
program so that so that you can have that connection with other Africans globally.
now we are trying to achieve two different things that uh, have a kind of print to uh, print our books, because we have work to translate to Portuguese a lot of books. We are working the message to the people of Marcus Garvey and another books from our liberators. All the money of these books, and we sell it, we 100% put in our communitarian work here. And we're trying to buy a building, and of course in the future have access to land. We are almost 10 families, 10 different families together around Brazil. Most of us is in Salvador. Salvador is a major black city here. Was the first capital of Brazil, and we are 89% of the population in Salvador. But it's um, a kind of Atlanta in US, but we don't have power in the city, because in Brazil, the majority of the black people don't see themselves as black and as on people working together to achieve our liberation. So we're trying to put those families together and build the schools, and our major objective now have access to means to produce books and sell for people, and use it to fund our schools. And a lot of people here pay private schools for their children. So we want to have those black people that pay for the children's education, paying to the put money in a black-owned school, on a black-owned school system, because we want to have a lot of schools here, and in parallel, walking side by side with it, we are working the public system with a lot of black teachers that already is applying for centric education in the public system. Of course, we know that the system was designed to be ineffective for people, but we believe that one teach other, and it's possible to make a difference even in the public system here in Brazil. So we are not asking for anything, but we are trying to find things that people in other countries can have interest to buy or to have access to exchange, and create more sustainability for people here in Brazil. So we are not to do business with other brothers and sisters. So if there anyone printing books in US, black owned uh, uh, publisher that have capacity to help us. We are interested to be in touch and try to put the things together to advance our liberation.
I believe Baba Baruti is a publisher. I'm not too sure, but I thought someone mentioned that earlier, that he has his own publishing company and has had it for a while.
Amazing. I always following, trying to uh, uh, follow Baba Daluchi. I try to reach him and maybe make business. I don't know if you can introduce me or someone in the organization of this conference. I would like to discuss with him. We have the situation of shipping that sometimes keep the things more expensive, but let's put the numbers down and look on it, because it's better to buy from the black people, even another country, to give money to white people that control the publishers here in Brazil.
No, you're correct. I don't know him personally, but I can see what information I can get. I know his wife mentioned their publishing company earlier when she opened up the presentation, opened up this morning.
Thank you very much, sister. So, our understanding of Quilombo here in Brazil, that the Quilombo is a social device to organize social and military and spiritual um, efforts toward our life, toward our liberation. The Brazil was and is the epitome, the maximum example of what Sheikh Anta Diop was explaining, that a lot of our sages like Dr. Franz Welsing and so on, saying about the sexual colonization, about the rape being the way to rip out and control a population. And the Portuguese, they after to beat the Moor, the African and Arab people that was in Iberian Peninsula. I don't know how to say it in English, but in Spain and Portugal, they understood and they recovered the original ways of the North Cradle to colonization, to invade other territories. And if you look in the Bible, I will quote the King James Version, Numbers 31, verse 10. You say about the war between the Israelites and I know some people will say the Israelites was black people or less colored people, but the logic behind this behavior was very possible to perceive. The verse 10 will say, and they burned all the cities wherein they built, and all the goodly castles with fire. And they took all the spoil and all the prey both of men and of beasts. And when they come back for the camp, in the verse 70, Moses will tell them, now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known men by lying with them. But all the women's children that have not known a man by laying with him, keep alive for yourselves. And that is the strategy. Uh, that's a viral strategy that white people historically use against us and against all melanated people in the world. They kill the man, they rape the woman, and breeding mixed descendants, and use these mixed descendants and train these mixed descendants to be a troop to invade another place and beat another population and kill the man again and rape again the woman. Here in Brazil, it was very common here to use this strategy. They did it with the native nations here, with the groups they call it bandeirantes. Bandeirantes means who carried the flag. It was a group of white Portuguese that raped a lot of Indian native people and raised the mixed sons to be a line group and invade another communities, another native communities, and this strategy was used against the Quilombos too, because the mulatto, so-called mulatto, mixed son of the slavers, it's called Capitão do Mato, something like the bush captain that was used by the Portuguese to invade the Quilombos, kill the man, rape the woman, and repeat. So that's the reason why in Brazil we have a lot of miscegenation, because the English colonization. Of course, I'm not saying that are a good colonization, a bad colonization. All colonizations are very bad to us. But in U.S., the pilgrim was traveling, was build colonies with their families. So the Englishman and the English woman was to U.S. to build a new country, whatever, blah blah blah. Here in Brazil, the white Portuguese men keep the white Portuguese woman in Portugal and come here alone to rape how much native and African woman he can put his dirty hands upon. So it was a cultural and military strategy to use rape to build a mixed nation. And these different approaches of the race supremacy will bring the U.S. to Jim Crow and the South Africa to the apartheid that was a colonization based upon segregation. And here in Brazil or in Angola or Mozambique, we have a colonization that the base was assimilation. So it's sometimes more difficult to convince people here to come together as a black people, to understand we are Africans and not Brazilians and not Europeans or Portuguese. That was a kind of strategy that Portuguese used to get in the African mind here in Brazil.
You know, Baba, as you were speaking, what came to my mind is that I wish we could have a universal agreement among all Africans of what language we should learn to speak, because I think it's important for us to be able to speak some type of African language, whether if we all agree if it's Swahili. So wherever we go, we can be able to converse with each other at any level.
That's a great topic. Here in Brazil, we have a large influence of Yoruba people, of away from people that was so-called voodoo people, and of the Bantu people, Congo people. The Swahili was not very common here in Brazil, but all the Bantu languages are very similar in some way. So it's possible to speak from a Bantu language, a so-called Bantu language, with others. Swahili is my name because my father was African freedom fighters. He was involved in the from the first hour or liberation here in Brazil, and he wanted to give me an African name. Here in Brazil, after the 19th century, people lost or reference. So it's here. It's not common to have people here with African names. It is being restored now in Brazil, but he gave me an African name, so I'm proud of it. And I believe the Swahili is a good language to understand and to use as a universal language for our people. Some will criticize the Swahili because Swahili had a lot of borrowings from the Arabic language, and some will say that Swahili is a pidgin or bastardized idiom language. But in fact, Swahili has the same background that English have, and English is in the same way a bastard language. It's have a lot of borrowing from French, Latin, and other Saxon languages. So I believe we should use Swahili to communicate with among itself. It was the language that a lot of African countries adopt with the official languages. But it's very hard to start these movements to teach a language that was perceived as foreign for the people, because we need. I was discussing it with a sister a few years ago, and she said, we need someone trying to dating someone that speak that language, because that's the major motivation to young people to trying to communicate. So she was joking with me, saying that my English is not very good. I don't learn English in the school, but was my case. I was interested in a sister from US, and I need to communicate with her. So I was trying to access her and talking with her in English. So uh, maybe we need to put our people together and start to have gatherings and have cultural moments for people. Use the language Swahili or another one to uh, motivate people to young people uh, mainly to learn it. In Brazil, so just to conclude, I believe we uh, have a good session. In Brazil, we have in the Candomblé house, in the African spiritual systems, people that keep the Yoruba or the Kikongo language alive, but as it's a kind of sacred language, which isn't used in the day-to-day life. So it's possible to go in the favela and see some people speaking Yoruba today, and the Yoruba that came from centuries ago. But it's liturgic. I don't know if this is the term in English, but it's just for religious purpose, just for religious moments. Okay, thank you. I want to thanks for Brother Hassan for having me, Brother Kijani, Brother and Sister Afia. Thank you very much. If you don't have any more questions, that's my mail. I'm in touch with the organizer of the conference. They can share my contact with you. And if you come to Brazil, reach me please, because we need one people, one arm, one destiny, liberations, one liberation. So asante sana.
Doc shotgun. Buck front, yeah. Shot. Intro to O. Yeah. And my dude, that Timbuktu the Ave. Renew your passion, shun the condition, and not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last, put the higher